What's up, marketing maniacs, and welcome back to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand, your ultimate BFF in the wide world of digital marketing. Join me, your host, Nicholas Kuhner, spilling the beans on the juiciest trends and hottest tips to up your marketing game. Well, hello everybody. From Startup to Wunderbrand, from a sunny Oslo and a sunny Madrid. So Julie Moorhouse is the founder and editor of Good Maker Tales, which covers all aspects of sustainable and ethical fashion and home from a UK perspective. So this is a slight deviation from our normal discussions on digital marketing, but we will try and weave it in somehow. And as a non-marketing person, so somebody who was a surveyor and working around the Middle East and the UK, etc., the website gets 38,000 visitors a month, 58% of them from the UK and just over 20% from the US. So it's doing the job. So we're going to talk to Julie a little bit about how she got this website up and running, what got her into the sustainable fashion mindset, and what tips and tricks she's got for us. Julie, great to have you on the call today.
Really nice to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So, talk to me about this website, or let's talk a bit about you and your marketing journey, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs and people who've started websites and blogs, etc., aren't marketers, but they learn the ropes as they go along. Maybe talk to me about a bit of background behind Good Maker Tales, and then we can go into the website and all some of the challenges of starting your own brand.
Right. Yeah. Well, so basically I was a surveyor for the best part of 20 years. Having worked in various different places, and I loved it. But then I got made redundant in the middle of COVID, and I was 6 months pregnant, and I just thought, I'm living in Spain where working hours are quite long and maternity leave is quite short, and I just thought, I just don't want to go back to that world, and what else can I do? So of course, while I'm sat there for many hours breastfeeding, I was just like Googling on my phone, how can I make money from home without having to go to work? And I stumbled across a podcast called Niche Pursuits, or Niche Pursuits with Spencer Hawes, and started listening and reading his blog about how you set up a niche website. Sounds quite easy. I'm sure I can do that. Wasn't, but I decided to set up a website. I kind of had that fairly fixed in my mind quite quickly. And then I knew that I wanted to do something about sustainability because I've always been a massive fan of sustainability. And when I was working in property or real estate, I was a big fan of green buildings and everything to do with sustainability in terms of how a building was run and built. But I didn't really think about my wardrobe. I didn't give it a second thought. I was literally going out shopping at lunchtime, buying a new dress, new whatever, and wondering why I couldn't find anything to wear. My wardrobe was overflowing. And then I started learning more and more about sustainable fashion. And I just thought that was what I was going to write about whilst learning about it at the same time. And it's just opened my eyes so much. And I think most people that get into sustainable fashion say similar thing that they had previously not really realized. And I learn stuff every week that shocks me. Like this week, the latest news is that Shein children's clothes can be up to 400 times more toxic than they're supposed to be legally.
Probably made by children as well.
Yeah, probably. And people don't really realize that child labor is a massive problem in the fashion industry. So originally, to set my website up, I just thought, I don't want to spend loads of time learning how to do a website. So I outsourced it to a company in the US to set my website up for me. I didn't like it at all. And then basically went on to Upwork, got a guy in India to redo the whole website for me, which was a mistake because I've now got a theme that isn't compatible with anything. I have a lot of technical problems on my website. I need to change the theme. If I'd kind of known what I know now, I would have done it completely differently. But obviously, it's a learning process.
Well, let's go through some of those learnings, because I think a lot of people go through this and make exactly the same mistake. So tell us, what would you have done if you could start again?
I would have focused on my theme for starters. And actually, funnily enough, the company in the States that set up the website for me did use a theme, Astra, which I want to change back to. But I just didn't like the design at all. I didn't like anything about what they'd written. All of their articles about sustainable fashion were written about people who clearly didn't know what they were talking about. So I pretty much didn't use them or rewrote them. So all the money I spent on the company, it was a starting point, which I needed. I would use the fastest theme you can. And I would use a theme that's compatible with everything. When I went to the guy on Upwork, he said to me, just choose a theme you like the look of. So I found this theme. It looked amazing. I was just like, oh, that looks so nice. I want more websites to look like that. So he's like, great, we'll just use that theme. And he just basically copied the exact style from the theme. And it's a nightmare. It isn't updated. It's not particularly fast. It's not compatible with loads of things. A website crashes a lot. It has problems. Suddenly the menu doesn't display properly. You're like, oh. And so I've spent hours and a lot of money trying to get it to, working on that and correcting it. So I think number one will be the theme. I just think you don't need a company to do it for you. I think you can probably do it yourself. But if you do get someone to do it for you, make sure that you know what you want, perhaps write out and draw how you want your website to look, rather than letting them do it for you. I think I've always given people more credit to know what's inside my head than they have. I just think, they're a professional company, it'll come back looking great. So be really clear about what you want. Use a fast theme, don't use so many plugins. I then had a technical company working for me, which I wouldn't recommend, because the problem is they just spent most of the time fixing all the theme problems. It's a lot of money and time, And I remember speaking to another blogger in the States, and she said to me, you shouldn't need a company to do all this for you. You should be able to do it yourself. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have all the. So that's just been so much time that I should have been writing articles, publishing stuff, building backlinks, which I just spent on technical stuff.
Yeah, I think that setup phase, a lot of people get into that quagmire because you don't have the technical knowledge about websites. You think, oh, this is pretty easy. And a lot of people say, yes, you can do a website for $500 and then you get what you pay for quite often. Very important to write that brief, as you mentioned. I think the brief writing and also understanding, and this is why businesses mature or change over time. It's when the founder sort of realize you get into the flow of things. You see what you like and don't like. Very often, only once you see it can you actually say that's what I want. But you spoke about backlinks, and this talks about SEO. And did you know much about SEO before you started? And maybe give us a couple of pointers for those who are aspiring blog writers about the importance of backlinks.
Well, so first of all, I didn't know anything about SEO other than what it stood for. That was literally all I knew. I knew it stood for search engine optimization, but I had no idea what it meant. What I would say is that I found a really good way to rank websites. I started building a tool around it, but I haven't done it. There's a method which I've stumbled across by mistake called the keyword golden ratio, which was invented by a guy called Doug Cunnington, I'm not sure. So it's the KGR, keyword golden ratio. And basically you look at the ratio between the number of all-in title results on Google and the number of search volume per month of that keyword. And keyword, of course, not being one word, it sounds like it's one word, but it's normally a phrase. And if the keyword golden ratio is below, I think it's 0.25, then it's a goer. And so I very quickly found that all my initial articles that weren't ranking, and I thought I was in the Google SAM, I could suddenly just tweak them a little bit to make the keyword golden ratio fit. And suddenly they started to rank, and I didn't have to be in the SAM pit. So I'll just give you a really quick example of that. So I had an article about ethical kids' shoes. So my keyword was ethical kids' shoes. Wasn't ranking because probably worldwide, there are probably, 200 searches a month, 250 a month. If you look at how many all-in title results there are on Google for that, there's probably over 100 ethical kids' shoes results, or 50 or whatever. If you put in ethical kids' shoes UK, there's only like 5. The search results, the search volume is lower, it might be 50. But the number of all-in title results drops off massively. So by niching down my article, and by going back to that same article and sticking UK in, all of my downs were from the UK anyway, suddenly the article started to rank. I don't think it ranks anymore, actually. That's an example of how you can use the keyword golden ratio to find a keyword that has lower search, it's true, but it has higher chance of ranking because there are less other people writing that exact search term. So suddenly, without building backlinks, I was able to rank and grow traffic for my articles very quickly. And I've never done backlink building. And it's something that I'm really conscious that I need to start doing. And in fact, just this morning, I was listening to podcasts about Haro, how it's now changed into Connectively. And the guy who set up Haro has now set up another one called Source of Sources to basically get PR links from journalists. That's something that I might do in the future. So yeah, backlink building is something I've never done. I just literally focus on content and growing traffic that way. But I definitely think I need to do that. And I think I need to extend my reach beyond just the UK and extend it to the US as well. Because, getting US traffic without even trying to get it. So if I tried to get it, then maybe I could actually grow my traffic a lot more.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, the niche focus is what allowed your page to rank. So I think, don't lose that focus. Now, you spoke about ethical kids shoes. That's quite a generic. I spoke to a fantastic SEO specialist called Lauren, and she's on one of my earlier interviews. You should definitely have a listen
to that. I love listening to podcasts.
She spoke about one of her early articles, like 10 years old. She's just kept updating it and kept adding keywords or removing things and adding elements to it. So you don't need to necessarily write 10 new posts on ethical kid shoes. You can keep updating that one. Make sure you've got links. Make sure you put in those backlinks in that and build up that page. And especially with blog writing, this is a long game as well. With things like ethical kid shoes, you can keep updating your list of the 10 best kid shoes or link within that article to your new article. So it's about building context into that page so that page becomes the number one page for ethical kid shoes, So that's quite a nice way of going about it. But let's go into sustainability. Well, actually, let's go back a little bit in terms of, and I think this might be useful for you as well, in terms of building your brand personality, building your brand positioning. What have you done in that space? And maybe, so you started this during COVID. So that's about what? I can't even remember when COVID 2020, right?
Yes, it's when I started looking into it. That's when I had my first baby. And then I probably didn't launch it until the end of 2021.
Okay. All right. So you've had a couple of years with it. In terms of the brand process and the positioning process, did you just think, sustainability in the UK, and I see it, sustainable and ethical fashion and home? I mean, fashion and home do go together, but they are two huge industries. Those are multi-billion-dollar industries by themselves. What is your vision for this page?
I'd like to grow it, as I mentioned, to where I wanted to do in the first place was kind of do sustainability as a whole. But the company that I was dealing with did give me some advice. They said, no, that's far too broad. You need to be niche. You can start off with fashion and then you can extend it. So I've started to extend it little by little by adding on home. I'd like to do kind of more lifestyle stuff and potentially even beauty, because I think beauty in itself is just a massive niche. So I'm very cautious about doing that. But only because personally, I'm very interested in toxic. I've become very interested in toxic fashion, toxic home, and toxic beauty, particularly about things like PFAs, forever chemicals. I didn't realize we're all wearing all the time. And particularly we're wearing them in our makeup. If you've got waterproof in the summer, for example, or your long-lasting nail varnish, your long-lasting lipstick, probably got forever chemicals in it. So I've become really passionate about waterproof clothing. A lot of them have PFAs in, and some of the big companies said that they found it really hard to replace them because they are really good. They're also really toxic. So I would love to do, I'm definitely kind of my home articles. I've started to getting more into the kind of like, I've got an article about non-toxic mattresses. I'm very interested in the non-toxic side of things. If I was going to grow it, that would be the direction of health, I guess.
Okay. Are you going to be the face of the brand, or are you hoping that just your maker tails is going to be strong enough to pull this brand forward? What is your strategy for that? Because obviously you're going out doing podcasts now, which I see is a smart move, but it means you've got to put yourself out there. How does that make you feel?
I didn't like it at all at first. That's why I'm not really very big on Instagram. I did do like one kind of brand review where I had to take photographs of myself wearing the clothes. Oh God, I just hated it. I'm not a kind of influencer where I'm kind of prancing around in clothes and saying, look at me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But I think to do it, I've certainly started, as I mentioned to you just before, I have recently done a course on LinkedIn and becoming a lot more active on LinkedIn. And that I feel more comfortable on LinkedIn because I used LinkedIn a lot before in my job. So I already had a lot of contacts on LinkedIn, and I feel somehow more comfortable on there because it's not kind of look at me wearing this dress. It's more like kind of, this is what I think about this.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
But I suppose it depends whether you want to make an impact, because on the folks on LinkedIn aren't necessarily terribly interested. They're interested in business sustainability and investment and jobs. So if you're going to if you're going to influence change, it's not going to be on LinkedIn necessarily.
No, and I should have mentioned actually the reason that I have become more active on LinkedIn is that I'm also doing a little bit of sustainable consulting for startup brands, because I realized that small brands were contacting me wanting to be on the website. I was having calls with them and realizing, gosh, I actually know quite a lot of stuff that I can tell them. I'm now doing this kind of small consultancy for startup or very small sustainable brands, helping them with the digital marketing and PR and affiliates, how to kind of get that all set up and started off. So that's really why I'm becoming a lot more active on LinkedIn. But yeah, in terms of growing the actual website and getting people interested in the content on Good Maker Tales, that would definitely be more like Instagram, Pinterest. I'm sorry, but I'm just not. If I could double myself, I've got a limited amount of time. I've got 2 very small children. They do go to school and nursery, but that time is the only time that I have. Once they come home, game over completely. I have very, very limited amount of time and a lot to do. So the other social network, which I've recently started getting more into, is Flipboard.
Mm-hmm.
I joined a group called The Insiders, set up by the Wealth of Geeks guys. And they're really into using Flipboard as an alternative traffic source to Google, because Google has recently kind of really not been very nice to bloggers with the helpful content update. So a lot of bloggers have lost a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky that mine stayed pretty constant, hasn't grown, but it stayed constant. But a lot of bloggers have lost a lot of traffic and they're looking for alternative ways to grow traffic. And Flipboard is actually a really good platform. So I'm in very early stages of trying that out.
Well, there's a company one of the interviews I did last week with a chap called Abdi Tayo, and he's got a company called Drift Time Media. So I'm going to suggest you go and take a look at that. That was a really good interview, and that's a business focusing on sustainability as well. Either to go and chat to them about some of the activities you're doing, but have a look at the sort of process that they use. Awesome guy and fantastic interview. In terms of time, that's an issue. I've got 2 kids as well. They're slowly growing up now. They're 11 and 7. In terms of getting yourself out there, especially when it's an individual brand like yourself, your face is the number one most important thing. Forget about your logo. Forget about all the colors and that. You are the brand. In order to grow, you have to focus on you. But I mean, if you don't want to be thinny running around with layered outfits and different layered print, you don't have to do that. You can do something that you're interested in, because remember, your target market, the folks who are interested in sustainability, are going to be interested in your thought process, your points, how you go thrifting, how you upcycle, how you use the circular economy, etc. And they will watch that content. So how do you treat are you using the disposable diapers, or are you using the towels? And how do you clean that? And what are the things you should watch out for? There's the mom and dad's section that are interested in, I've got a baby or kid. So you've got to make a decision in terms of, are you going to be happy documenting every day of your life? Because that's what people are interested in. They're not interested in nameless blog farms coming out of India and the US, like you mentioned. And like you said, they've got no heart, they've got no feel, and you had to rewrite all of them. And I've had the same experience when I started. I thought, I can just get these articles knocked out. You need copywriters. You can't just do that. But we've got ChatGPT now, so you can actually, with a one-man band, create some amazing content based on the best content in the world. So your 1 hour spent on writing blogs, you can literally write some good quality blogs.
Well, maybe I haven't learned enough about how to give it prompts, but I have to say that I should probably spend the time to learn how to give it prompts. But I find that what it sends me back is just, I end up spending so much time editing it that I almost rewrite it.
You're going to have to put your personal touch on it anyway. However, if one looks at ChatGPT 4, you can create your own GPT, which means that your style you can do it in your style, your tone of voice. And if you prompt enough of it on it and put up enough of your articles, it will learn your style and it will give it in the same way. So I prompted in, do this in the style of David Attenborough, do this in the style of Hunter S. Thompson, and it will do it in that style. You need to make adjustments, but it's getting better. And I think that will be a great time saver for you and get good content out for you. Yeah. So what I'd suggest is reaching out to networks on Facebook and on LinkedIn and say, who wants to join me in this journey? Who would like to submit articles? Do you have a submit article tab? Do you have, because there are lots of people who want to do that, but that should be what you push. And on SEO, as you know, there's a function where you can type in, give me links of people who have a submit article or guest writer or guest blogger on their website, and it'll give you the entire list. You can use ChatGPT to actually do that now. Give me a list of the 10 best sustainable fashion companies that are looking for guest writers, and it's just time.
Yeah.
So
I do actually. Very well. I'm like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going to bed at 10, and then I'm going to get up at 6 because I need my 8 hours. I'm going to get up at 6, not that I always get it, and then I'm going to work for a couple of hours before, an hour and a half or an hour before the kids wake up. Can't get to bed at 10. I just can't.
Yeah.
Just can't get to bed that early.
You are not in the finance industry here. This is an industry people are passionate about, and lots of the people in this space are unemployed or unemployable and would be happy to put out content there. So make sure you put out the request to coin the phrase.
Yes.
Sure.
I have recently put the Right For Us page on my website. It's quite recent, and I'm getting spammed. I'm getting a lot of people saying, "Oh, will you write about this or that?" And it's just like not even relevant. Yeah. Here's all the articles we've written. You look at the articles; they're all by different authors. Yeah. I'm still waiting to get a genuine one.
Well, let's hope somebody listening to this podcast hears this and reaches out. So I'll put that link in the description. So I like the consulting idea, because it's funny how one business idea will sort of, I'm going to cut this out, but one business idea leads to another, or, better ideas. And perhaps your sustainability consulting is a good way to actually make money, because making money on blogs is a tough gig. Unless you've got your sustainable t-shirts and mugs and scrubs and things like that, your merch.
Yeah, no.
And all these blogs take years to solidify, get their readership, and you might want to get onto Substack as well, and Medium, and syndicate your material.
Oh, that's good.
That's why they pay me the big bucks. So yeah, a lot to do, and it's early days, but I think the consulting side is quite good. And talk about your process. Talk about how you can help companies to start building brand Julie. And, Moore House, I mean, the Moors, that's nice and there's lots of sustainability concepts around there. So you can do something around that. And the sustainability consulting, I mean, my business does sustainability communications across Africa. So we work with banks and companies like that to build out their sustainability strategies and communications. And it's a feel-good industry, so I like it. So at least you're in a good space. You're not selling petrochemicals or weapons of mass destruction. So, but you need to obviously find to look at how you can monetize this and make an impact. So, and talking about impact, I see you're an ambassador for Remake, an advocacy organization advocating for garment workers' rights, which I think is very cool.
So I'll just quickly touch on Remake. So I don't do enough for Remake as I would like to do, and I generally have to watch the replays of their monthly calls because it's always at dinner time for my children, because it's in the States. So a lot of the groups that I'm in are in the States, and it always falls really badly for me time-wise. It would be great to join some groups in Europe. I have just recently done a talk to the RICS, funnily enough, in the Middle East, where I used to work, about sustainability and sustainable fashion. I've been asked to do a talk next week for a university in India, lecturing lecturers about sustainable design. And although I've said it, question only, because I don't have a design background. And so going out and talking a lot, not necessarily paid, but just doing it to talk and to increase awareness of sustainable fashion and the issues in the industry, because a lot of people aren't conscious of it. I wasn't conscious of it. I posted on LinkedIn the other day that I'm really frustrated with the school where my little girl is, because they've got all going in coloured tutus for an event at the end of June. And they've got specified colours that they have to have. And so the WhatsApp group that I'm in for mums is just going crazy about where they're going to buy these tutus. And I'm just writing, second hand, this is so earth destroying. I didn't say that. Teacher wrote it yesterday. I'm going to write to the head teacher. So, it's kind of like being an ambassador for me is a lot more than just, doing stuff on social media, but it's actually going out and talking to people and trying to educate people. I'm going to offer as well, going to do a talk to parents about it and kind of teaching them about it. Because a lot of people, it's not that they don't want to do these things. They're just not conscious of it at
Well,
all.
it starts like this in terms of sharing knowledge and starting at grassroots level, sort of like politicians. And it starts with the kids. Our kids basically wear exclusively secondhand clothes or hand-me-down clothes, and they don't feel anything about it. And also being in Norway, we moved here. It's quite an expensive country, so everything basically from us, from plates to knives and forks to the kids' clothes and our jackets were from the Salvation Army and from the secondhand stores.
Right.
And my wife has pushed us from years back to check the labels, make sure, see if it's cotton wool, if it's been made in China, et cetera, et cetera. So we do that exclusively, and I make sure I use it enough to then hand it back to the Salvation Army so that it can go for a third run as well. So we're very much into that space. And the Swedes are also quite good in terms of that upcycling, where they will fix things. The problem in Europe is obviously the price. For Norway's got a problem in that we don't do any electronic repairs because it's way too expensive. So we've got the highest repair costs in Europe or in the world, and nothing gets repaired. It just gets turfed out. There are people advocating on that. But it's the kids that are important. Don't need all of this new crap. They don't. Because you're going to wear it for a couple of months and it's gone. So I'm totally on board with that. I think if you focus on the grassroots level with schools, let them wear secondhand things that can be handed down to the next lot. I think it's psychologically, we look poor if we have secondhand things. No, you're saving the environment. You are, keeping things out of the landfill.
I think Northern Europe is a lot better at this than Southern Europe. Living in Spain and being British, I can see the difference here. It's definitely that whole thing about we don't want to look poor is really a thing in Spain. In the UK, everyone's like, look, it's like an half. It's always amazing. You don't go around saying that. Well, I do. But
well, I'm actually going, after this interview, I'm going to Free Text, which is the Salvation Army. They've got a sale. I've been dreaming about it last night. So that's how interested in recyclables I am.
That's great. So, there definitely is a snobbery about it in Spain. And I definitely go on about it to people. Oh, it's secondhand. It's secondhand, that's secondhand. My little girl needs to wear sunglasses because she's got a bit of a lazy eye. It's pretty sunny here. And I just bought them secondhand.
Yeah.
So I kind of tell everyone and they're all,
yeah. I think if people know the background behind it and why you're doing it, and again, I honestly think people buy too many things, and we need to rather buy local, buy better quality materials that'll last longer, because this reliance on China and cheap fast fashion is just a disaster. But anyway, that would be a separate discussion. Julie, I'm going to leave it off there. Where can folks get hold of you? Number one, for the website, I'll put that in the link, but if they would like some consulting on how they can get in touch with you for some consulting work.
Well, LinkedIn is a good place to find me, Julie Morehouse, on LinkedIn, Good Maker Tales, or they can go to my website and I have a page on there as well that they can get in touch with me on there. So I'd love to hear from people.
Now, before we wrap up, don't forget to show some love for From Startup to Wunderbrand by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to help us grow, tell your friends, share on social media, and leave us a review. For those of you who want to dive a little bit deeper into the topic, join me on Twitter @NickKuna. Let's connect and chat about all things branding and digital. Until next time,